Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NinjaTrader Ecosystem webinar room. My name is Juanita Archuleta, and I work for the NinjaTrader ecosystem here in our Denver office. We have a very special event for you today with Frank of Remek Trading Systems. I would like to mention it is important to understand that there are substantial risks in trading commodity futures contracts and Forex. You should carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you. It will depend on your specific circumstances and financial resources. It is possible to lose all funds deposited with your broker and could even incur losses beyond these amounts. Please inquire at the following link for a copy of the CFTC full risk disclosure or if you have any additional questions. Also, please remember that these training webinars are not a solicitation nor a recommendation, but simply educational in nature. This presentation is presented by NinjaTrader LLC, which is the technology company responsible for developing and supporting the NinjaTrader trading software. Brokerage-related questions should be sent directly to our brokerage team using the following email address or giving them a call directly. With new tools added nearly every day, NinjaTrader ecosystem is home to hundreds of apps and services. You can quickly and easily find these tools or services you are looking for with the simple keyword search. You'll also find information about upcoming webinars and an on-demand video archive to view event recordings. Also, if you are active on social media, we would highly recommend you follow us on Twitter and Facebook to get all updates on NinjaTrader ecosystem daily. NinjaTrader is free for advanced charting, strategy backtesting, and trade simulation. And if you are just getting started with NinjaTrader, we do offer free live training on a daily basis. You can view a schedule of weekly webinars using the following link. We have a very exciting event in which Frank will show you how he endeavors to define what system he wishes he could have when he started out as a trader. Thank you again for your attendance, and without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome to the NinjaTrader ecosystem room, Frank. Go ahead and take it away, Frank.
Thank you, Juanita. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for joining us today, guys. And I also would like to thank Juanita and the NinjaTrader team to invite Remek Trading Systems to present today. It is an honor to be here. And without further ado, I'd like to say a few words about what we can expect in this short presentation. If I can move this slide forward. All right, so a few words about our company and myself. So my name is Ferenc Meszaros. I live in Toronto, Canada, for at least for the past 35 years. I was born in Hungary, and I founded Remek Trading Systems in 2008. We've been NinjaTrader partners since 2014, and also Shark Indicators partners, if that name is familiar to many of you, since around that same time, I guess. For the past 5 years, I've also been teaching at an American university in Europe with campuses in Vienna and Budapest. For the past 2 years, unfortunately, all teaching is online. So otherwise, in springtime, I'd be in Europe by now. But it is a real privilege to function to do my job in both functions as part of the Remek trading team and also at the university. At the university, I teach trading strategy design and mainly focusing on algorithmic trading. So I hope I'll be able to add some value to the community also as part of our company. So let's see what I'm planning for this webinar as the agenda. 12 years ago when I started, was it 12 or 13, in 2008 anyway, that was a few years after I left a banking project on which I spent 10 years with highly trained software programmers, and I wouldn't count myself as one, but some of the guys were real rock stars. And if anybody is listening today, I'd like to thank them for everything that I ever learned from them. I tried to build a system after those initial years of blood, sweat, and tears, as I like to call them, basically licking my own wounds, to build a system that I can later use to participate successfully in financial markets. But first, what I pictured at that time is what kind of system would I want to have? And that was back in 2008, and it was many years before I ever had the chance to build that system. But very soon after I started trading, I realized that the edge is of utmost importance, and we will define the edge as a statistical advantage when we participate in financial markets. As we know, financial markets are a tough and rough territory. There's a lot of randomness. There's millions of participants with all kinds of agendas, plans, and not at least, or not, I'm not sure what the English word is, but anyway, let's just keep going. So the least of which is financial resources. I guess that's what I wanted to say. So we are competing with other participants which may have much larger resources, both software and technical as well as financial than we do. So if we wanted to have a chance in this game, then we should have a system that has an edge, a verifiable edge. And as we know, an edge is always subject to change. We continuing to verify our edge as a recursive process in our trading business is an ongoing task. And we're not going to go into much detail because we just simply don't have the time. Each of these main points actually demand their own webinar, or at least a half-an-hour discussion. Moving on from the edge, I definitely wanted to have a system which is fast and robust. By robust, I mean that is not curve-fitted or over-optimized. As we know, and as we know by now, because I didn't know at the beginning, certainly, but I know by now that over-optimization is a major problem when designing trading systems. Just think of, there's lots of examples from real life. If you over-optimize any system based on a given data set, then most probably the first thing it will do on real incoming new data is that it will break down, because simply the new data is very different from the old one on which it was optimized. So over-optimization is a problem that we should avoid, or a pitfall that we should avoid. I also wanted to have a system which is fast, because I like looking at several markets, maybe 5, 10, 20 markets as part of my trading business, and I want to be able to switch between markets easily and at speed. I also wanted to have a reliable platform. Now that was the least of my problems, because I quickly discovered NinjaTrader. I started with 6.5, if I recall. Now we're on 8.0, and this is the most robust system that I know, and I wouldn't want to do this job on any other platform. So that was the easiest and the most obvious part of the equation to find NinjaTrader. Now, the next one was a little more difficult, and that is really what took years to adapt. I wanted to have a system which can adapt itself. Well, that was my dream, automatically to the ever-changing markets. That it was a elusive dream for a long, long time, probably a couple of years, 3, 4 years, definitely. And we will address this later in the presentation. Hopefully, I can show you how that problem has been solved. I also, I'm not hiding the fact I did have a discipline problem, especially in the first years. So I was certainly looking for a software tool and a whole trading environment which encourages me, or to use a rough word, to forces me to be disciplined. And I hope I will be able to show you with this product how that was achieved. Nothing is 100%, but achieved to a large extent. Okay, and I definitely wanted to have a system which I can use effectively for backtesting and research in general. And now that for the past 5 years, I've been in an academic environment, this point has just become even more important for me. And I'm happy to say that we have achieved that. Now, actually the first few years, I bumped around lots of ideas and systems, and I've read all the books in the library I could ever put my hands on. And of course, all of us realize that there's a lot of gimmicks in this business. I've actually talked to people who wanted to use the phases of the moon or the heights of the pyramids and whatnots when they design their systems. And this is nothing like that. So I definitely wanted to have a system which is firmly rooted in science and statistics and cold hard data, basically. So let's move on. By the way, let me mention that on the right here, we are just, we just don't have enough time to go into all the details today. So, but please feel free to later on refer to our website, and this presentation, as well as the video recording, will be shared later, and you will be able to click on any of the links which are underlined here in this presentation. All right, so let's move on. Before I start talking about Cheetah, I'd like everyone to be on the same page about a couple of basic things. And I'm sorry for all the attendees who know me well and who've been with Remek for many years. This is probably nothing new to you, but please allow me to go through this quickly. In the meantime, Thomas says there's no sound. Can I check with all of you if I'm coming through, if you can hear me? Sound is good? Okay, thank you. Thomas, could you please, if you hear me? Beautiful. Thank you, guys. All right, so probably the problem is not on my end. Thank you for confirming. So moving on, apologies to all the guys who know me well and who've seen this and heard this before, my rants about the 3 legs of trading, but it's so foundational that actually I thought that once have the opportunity to speak to a wider audience, this is really something I'd like to go through quickly just to make sure everybody is on the same page. And feel free to disagree. By all means, I welcome disagreement and other opinions, but at least let me share with you how I see the 3 foundations of successful trading. The first one, this is not rocket science, by the way, so there will be nothing new, but let's just go through this. Maybe there will be something you can take away from this. So the first one is obviously the capital. Now, as we all know from anecdotal evidence or hearsay, is that not everybody is successful as a trader. Actually, quite a large percentage of people who try to trade will not be successful, sadly. And while the reasons may be, various in particular situations, one of the main reasons that I've heard from people I've talked to is not being able to define, or basically not taking the time to define the right amount of capital for a given trading strategy. And I always think of this as, if I go out and drive out on a trip, I need to make sure that I have enough gas in the car. It's as simple as that. When we deploy a strategy on the market, whatever that strategy is, we have to make sure that it has the statistical ability to withstand the worst case scenario, basically. It's like when you design a building, or when you design a car, when you design any machinery, the engineers make sure that the worst case scenario will be easily handled, actually. So the right amount of capital is of utmost importance, and not making sure that the right amount of capital is available on the account is, in my experience, one of the major reasons for failure. So please take this into account as you go on designing your trading activities or trading business. How we calculate the right amount of capital is not really that difficult. And I'm not going to go into too much details here, especially since I included here a link, which if you click on it later, that will take us to a calculator on our website. We have lots of good calculators on our website, freely available for visitors. So please make sure that you become familiar. And if you have a better calculator, by all means, use that. The point is just to calculate the right amount of capital. The calculator that I built on the website, I think is pretty useful. So please check it out later. Now, the second leg of successful trading is skills. This is, again, nothing new. The way I see it, skills can be grouped into 2 subparts or elements, basically. One is to know the right thing, and the second is to have the ability to do the right thing. And I know this from my own experience, that I knew the right thing a couple of years before I started to develop the ability to do the right thing. So these are 2 crucial ingredients, of a successful trading program, a trading mandate. And skills, of course, knowing the right thing comes in the form of information, the right information, not gimmicks, not myths, and not stuff like that. Financial astrology, if we want to put a name on it, but real technical skills. And the good news is that the math, the statistics, is not really difficult. So we're not talking about anything really, PhD level. Any basic common sense math level and statistics is sufficient to do the work that we need to do. And then there are some psychological skills, and certainly some psychological skills that will be necessary to have, and most of us don't have it at the start. So to develop, to be able to put our ideas and the right information in actual practice. So more about this on our premium page. We have actually started a service which tries to, the mandate of which is to try to help traders who use our software to come with us into the trenches on a daily basis, every day, every trading day of the year, and follow us and come with us and, well, suffer with us, to be honest, as we navigate the markets. That service is called Remek Premium. It's a subscription service. It's not a software product, it's a service which includes nightly videos and other stuff, and you're welcome to check out the details on this link. So moving on to the third ingredient, this is now pure statistics and mathematics, but don't worry, nothing really complicated. Actually, it's quite simple. The edge. The edge is a statistical advantage that we must have in order to have a chance to make money on the markets. Without an edge, it's mathematically impossible. Let me repeat, mathematically impossible to make money on the markets, to be successful on the markets. The edge is vital. Edge, there's a lot of ingredients, or several ingredients anyway, in any edge, and that's a whole separate webinar. So right now I'm just scratching the surface here, but basically we define the edge as a statistical advantage without which success is not possible. And as any statistical advantage, and this is important to know, the edge manifests itself over a large number of events. So if you ask me what's the result of my next trade, I'm the first one who will tell you I have no idea. My next trade, who knows? Nobody knows the future. But if you ask me what will be the outcome of my next 1,000 trades, I can tell you with pretty good confidence what the outcome will be. So the edge manifests itself over a large number of trades. And this ties us back to the right amount of capital, because as we well know, we all have drawdowns. Actually, we spend most of our trading life in drawdowns, one way or the other. Drawdown is a natural, it's basically just a natural part of doing business. And you should think of this as the cost of doing business. It's nothing really bad about drawdowns. It's a natural part of our business. What we need to make sure is that we always have capital, enough capital to survive the drawdowns. All right. The third ingredient of the edge is somewhat is just part of our nature. I think, but I'm not a scientist or I'm not an expert in this field by any measure, but I think we all feel is that we're not really well built as human beings to think in probabilities. And that manifests itself in our daily lives in so many different ways that that's a whole different conversation, a very interesting conversation in and of itself. Anyway, to keep going, what I want to tell you, first of all, there are some more calculators here that should help you to calculate your edge. Feel free to click on these links later. And to sum up this little fundamental or foundational analysis of a successful trading business, I'd like to just sum it up and add that it's pretty obvious. One leg will never substitute another. And if one leg is missing, the chair won't stand. These are profound thoughts. So it is not, I didn't invent this, of course. I might have put some parts together the way I see it, but actually this whole thing is well documented in quality trading literature. So it's not something that I discovered, but it's something that I implemented with discipline in my own trading activities, definitely. Okay, so after this little introduction and warm-up, let's see what the Cheetah is all about. A few months ago, our Cheetah product line basically came out, and some of you may have already purchased it. Sales have been good. and I'm happy to introduce it to a wider audience right now. So let's go through in just a few steps what this Cheetah is all about. First of all, it will take the form of NinjaTrader 8 strategies, and we'll get to the product in about 2-3 minutes. We're going to hop on NinjaTrader 8 and I'll show you everything in action. But before we do that, I'd like to tell you what the Cheetah does. The Cheetah trades or identifies, that's a better word, because if we enter the trade or not, that will be up to us or up to a couple of choices that we have to make, but identifies the reemergence of momentum out of consolidation areas. Now that sounds very complicated and scientific, but nothing to worry, it's actually quite simple. Consolidation areas are, in everyday English word, is a pullback. It could be a bear flag or a bull flag. It could be horizontal. So we don't really use, well, the exact technical term, we use consolidation areas because it could be sloping, it could be horizontal, it could take a variety of forms. It could be taking a form of a complex pullback or a simple pullback. There's so many ways this thing can look. Doesn't matter what it looks like, it's the consolidation area. Think of a marathon runner one guy who stops a couple of times anyway. So when we stop and catch our breaths, and then we later continue jogging, it's the same thing. We just stop for a breather. Price tends to do the same thing in a trend, which will produce these consolidation areas. Now, that's not where we want to enter, though. We want to enter the market, or we want to consider entering the market when momentum reemerges, when price starts to move out from these consolidation areas. So actually, when other possibly bigger players have already made the decision to enter the markets, and that is what will move price, and that's when we want to join the party, so to say. Okay, the Remek Cheetah also allows us to trade with an edge. I constantly keep verifying our edge, or the edge of the product. This is something you will also have to do yourself. Remember, if you think of this as a high quality, like a Steinway piano, or a high quality car, or a high quality anything, let's not forget there is a person who plays that piano. There's a person that will drive that car or operate that spaceship or whatever that very complicated, sophisticated machinery is. The same thing with the software. You, as the trader, the user himself or herself, will be part of the equation that goes into the edge. So you have to make sure that you are fit, the system is fit, and the edge is thus maintained. Let me just have a sip of water here. 1 second, please. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, so let's continue. Robustness means, now here it is defined. So we don't want to work with a system that's curve fitted, and we don't want to work with a system that's over optimized. There's a slight difference between these terms, but what the exact differences are is not that important for our purposes right now. Everybody is quite familiar with these terms, I'm sure. Now, it is very tempting to over-optimize a system and to fiddle with the settings for years. Some people spend years fiddling with settings instead of putting the machinery together. It's useless to fiddle endlessly with the settings because as soon as you think you found the optimal setting, you put this on the live market, the market will prove you wrong, basically. So instead of fiddling with the setting, what we need is a robust system, something that really works, but not necessarily the best possible system on a given day or a week, because we think long-term. All right, well, the next was easy. So NT8, I'm really happy with NinjaTrader. This system is built for Ninja 8, so there's no trouble there. Self-adaptive is one of the biggest highlights of this system. If I ask you to just remember one thing from this presentation, it's the fact that these systems are self-adaptive. What does that mean? And I think I've really checked. I'm in no position to make a statement, but I've not found on YouTube or anywhere online another system that can do this. I'm proud to say, I think it's my feeling that this is a first in the NinjaTrader universe, but I'll be happy to proven wrong if there's another one. So I haven't checked, of course, everything out there. But I'm proud to say that our system is self-adaptive. Now, what does that mean? That means that markets always change. Volatility in markets change. The past 2 years or the past 1.5 years, if you just look at a daily ES chart, we know quite well what happened in March 2020. And then we also are quite familiar of what's happening on the ES, for example, right now. This grind to the upside produces very, very small daily candles. Volatility is contracted. Compare that with March 2020, when the ES made 150 points in a day on average. So just a reminder that even on the same instrument, at different times during our trading activities, we might need a very different account size to trade the same instrument because the volatility conditions are dramatically different. Now, while this system, of course, the software cannot put money on your account, obviously, but what it can do is that it can adapt itself, adjust itself to the changing volatility conditions. I'll be happy to show you how, and many of you, the Remek fans and Remek customers who might be here in the group, they already know exactly how this is done. Okay, well, the last two, just very quickly, I always wanted a system that helps me to focus and to focus on only what matters and not to focus on what doesn't matter. And I think that these systems help me to do that. That has some personal ingredients. So I can't, of course, speak for everybody here, but I think that whoever the trader is, I think this tool helps to stay focused and to stay disciplined. I am a strong believer of doing research, ongoing research. As part of your trading plan, research, a recursive research activity should be incorporated into our trading business, I think, if it's on the weekends or evenings when the market's closed. That, of course, depends on the individual circumstances. But I definitely wanted to have a research tool which is powerful, saves me time, does what it's supposed to do, and helps me to maintain my edge, and also to discover new markets and new timeframes for that matter. And I'm happy to say that our product can do that too. Now, after all this rant, and I know that it's hard to believe that a product can do all this, and I'm not making claims, unfounded claims, and I also not making claims for results, because let's remember, whatever this piano is and whatever car, whatever machinery this might be, it's always driven by a human being. This is operated by a human. So the trader actually operating this machinery has to be ready and basically able to operate this profitably. Okay, so let's see what we did. We built 3 products. So the Remek Cheetah algorithm and this specially programmed algorithm, because there are a couple of tricks in the code itself which makes the execution faster. That's why we call it a proprietary algo. It's not just the idea is uniquely executed, but there are some programming details which I think add great value to the product. Bottom line, we built 3 systems. We never want to forget our customer base, which uses Bloodhound and Blackbird. So we have Remek Momentum Pro, which is the Cheetah-based algo built for the Bloodhound users. So if you are using Shark Indicator's fantastic products, then you are right on board with us, because we have Remek Momentum Pro for you. It has the Cheetah technology built in. The only difference is that the Cheetah technology is built into a BLK file, which, as you know, is a black box in Bloodhound. And that BLK file will drive a Blackbird file, which is the trade management engine. And you are, I'm sure, quite familiar with Bloodhound and Blackbird if you use those products. Now, there's a segment of our customers which trade directly on NinjaTrader, and we treat them, we keep them in high esteem, obviously. So we built 2 products for them too. We call these the standalones. Let me grab a little marker here just to mark this. This first product was the Bloodhound and Blackbird-based product. The second one and the third one is for people who don't use Bloodhound Blackbird, basically people who trade directly on NinjaTrader. And now the question is, what's the difference between the two standalones? Well, I'll show you in NinjaTrader in 1 minute exactly. One, as you see, has the BT. BT stands for backtestable. And basically that's backtestable easier than the STR. The STR is also backtestable, but there's a couple of little notes that we have to attach to that. And there's a couple of little workarounds that we have to be mindful of. And this is all documented in the resources that you're welcome to check out later on our website. Now, let's see. At this point, I think it's time, if you agree, that we hop on NinjaTrader and that I show you these three workspaces in action. Shall we do that? We have about maybe 10 minutes to go, so I hope that will give us enough time to have a quick look. And I'd like to mention that we have lots of videos on our website and a lot of detailed explanations, technical details, and resources. So I'm not going to try to tell you everything about these products right now, but let's have a look anyway. So, sorry, give me a second here. This comes later, all the special offers. First, let's look at the software itself. So we are looking at, let me see which one. We are actually, let's start with the Bloodhound version. This is Remek Cheetah Bloodhound version, otherwise called Remek Momentum Pro. It is a workspace. It allows you to trade any number of instruments. We have a very powerful market scanner, which we call Remek Market Scanner Pro, inside the market analyzer with all these specialized columns. If you're familiar with our products, you know exactly what this is. If not, then there's lots of videos and explanations on the website. But basically, this is what it looks like. As you can see, we have Bloodhound and Blackbird on the chart. And let me just open Blackbird here. Shark indicators, fantastic trade management engine. If you peep inside with me, then we can see that we have various BLK files. In this case, we're running Pro BLK, Momentum Pro BLK. That's the Bloodhound file. And we're using the signals generated by that algorithm to put on and manage trades with Blackbird. This is just a template, so there's no obligation to trade 3 contracts. And as you can see, I can make the trade management rules as complex or simple as I want to. In this case, we have 8 different rules to manage our trades. But if you're familiar with Blackbird, you know exactly how this works. So I'm not going to go into more details about this right now. Rather, I would go to the next implementation of this same product, basically. The idea and the methodology is exactly the same. What is not the same is the implementation, because in this case, actually, we can take this trade off. Here we go. So what is different here is the implementation. The implementation in this case is a standalone strategy, which means that we run the strategy directly on NinjaTrader. Now, this allows lightning fast execution, lightning fast operation. And let me just show you quickly what we all know, how we put on a strategy on the chart. So here we go. This is a Remek strategy called ProSTR. And as we all know, all the Ninja settings, the standard settings for strategies are on the right here. But as you'll see, the list is a little longer because we added more settings to this. Well, some of them are just colors, so basically just visual convenience, but there are some major important settings here that actually go into the algorithm, one of which includes a higher time frame filter. If I want the higher time frame filter active, I can switch it on, or if I don't, I switch it off. Let me show you in just one sentence what we mean by higher time frame filter. So as you know by now, we trade the reemergence from consolidation areas, in other words, pullbacks. So let me just mark up a couple of pullback areas here, imaginary pullback areas, and we would trade the re-emergence of momentum, which means when price steps out from the pullbacks. So far, so good. And this is not rocket science. Of course, success is in the details. Now, what the higher time frame filter does so imagine this pullback here. Let's say this is our trading time frame. But then imagine a higher time frame, and let's imagine that this pullback is actually part of a very large bear flag, which we expect to break down. Well, this is thin ice. I'm not sure I want to be very adventurous putting on long trades when on the higher time frame we are coming down. I'm sorry, that's a pretty bad, coming down, something like this. And this whole area might be here, you see? So these pullbacks, these little pullbacks, bull flags, in other words, are all part of a larger bear flag. That's what we call high time frame conflict, right? Nothing new here, but the software is able to filter this out. So if you switch this on here, this one, then these signals will be suppressed, skipped, because the environment is not conducive to making long trades here. I think it's pretty obvious. It's nothing really new here, but the execution is superb and the software design is superb. And again, it takes the burden off your back because all the mathematical calculations are done in a millisecond. So there's lots of things you don't have to worry about. So you can focus on what the trader should be focusing on, the right state of mind and understanding what's going on and taking responsibility for our actions. And then once we're in the trade, manage the trade for whatever the outcome is. Okay, so that's the ProSTR. There's one more major thing about the ProSTR. In all three cases, let's say this is the point where the signal arrives. So this time here is before we enter, and this is after we enter. The question is, what happens when we enter the trade? What happens when the signal arrives? In the case of ProSTR, the ProSTR will launch a NinjaTrader ATM. And everybody here, I'm sure, is familiar with NinjaTrader ATM. It's a powerful part of NinjaTrader, ingredient of NinjaTrader, which can be very handy. And we all know how useful it can be. In this case, the ProSTR algorithm, our proprietary algorithm, which identifies the reemergence of momentum, will launch an ATM. The good thing about this is that ATMs are highly customizable. So you are able to define and design your own ATMs and deploy it onto the market many, many, many times because our edge manifests itself over a large number of trades. Yes, BB is asking if we have free trials. Yes, of course. All our products can be tried free for 15 days, fully functional. Yes, of course. I will include the link later. Thank you. Very important question. Thanks. Okay, so that's what ProSTR does. Let's move on and see and have a look at ProSTRBT, which on the surface you will notice looks very, very similar. Actually, it looks exactly the same. But under the hood, the algorithm will be the same, but under the hood, the implementation is not the same, it's different. In this case, usual procedure, I'm just gonna put the strategy on the chart. If you notice, I'm putting on now the ProSTRBT, the backtestable version of our algorithm. And let me just highlight this. Okay, now if we look at the right-hand side, I'm just gonna scratch the surface here really. We have very detailed videos about this. I'm running ahead of myself, but excuse me for that. So let's have a look here. You will notice that most of the settings, I think 90% of the settings are exactly the same as for the ProSTR. Some of the settings are different, and those settings are new and specific to ProSTRBT. And in concrete terms, let me show you what those settings are. All these strategy options, which I'm going to highlight here, the strategy options are unique to ProSTRBT. And this is where it's at, guys, because here you will notice that you will notice the uniqueness of ProSTRBT. Everything is measured in ATRs. As far as I saw it online, I'm not sure, of course, this is, or this could be an industry first. I've never seen this before. This is what we did here. Everything is measured in ATRs. Now, why is that a big thing? Well, it's big because, first of all, let me make one step back. Let me explain to you what happens when the signal arrives. In the case of the BT, when the signal arrives, we are not going to launch an ATM. We don't need to, because BT has its own built-in volatility adjusting trade management engine. That sounds very posh and scientific, but let me just simplify this. It launches its own built-in trade management engine. So far, so good. But the big thing and the novelty about this is that that trade management engine automatically adjusts itself to the changing volatility conditions of the market. That means in real terms, let's think back of the ES last March and this March. Last March, look back, candles were huge, and the average true range, let's say 80 or 20, whatever way we decide to measure it, was like 150 points. Today, past couple of weeks or days, the very small range bars, maybe, I don't know, I didn't measure, I didn't look, but maybe 15 points. So maybe 10 times smaller than a year ago. With a ABC XYZ trading product, you would need to fiddle with the settings because the market has changed. What worked here, if you use stops here, these stops would be huge here, unnecessarily huge. Or if you want to use these small stops on this market, you'd be stopped out all the time. The account would suffer. We need a product which measures as new bars keep coming in, it measures volatility in real time and modifies the execution of the algorithm in real time. And that's what ProSTRBT is. And that's what makes me say that I'm very proud of ProSTRBT. It's the top of the food chain. And if you don't have it, you should. And I'm not exaggerating. ProSTRBT is a self-adjusting trading strategy built for NinjaTrader 8 and our pride and joy, basically, of the past 12 years. You're welcome to try it out for 15 days. It doesn't cost money to try it out. And by all means, let me know what you think and let me know if it helps your trading. So there we have them, the 3 implementations of our strategy: Momentum Pro for Bloodhound users and ProSTR and ProSTRBT for people who don't use or at certain times, or let's say on a certain computer, are not using third-party products. And in most trading offices, there may be 2 or 3 computers on the desk. So it's all quite natural to have several of these. Actually, I do have customers who trade one instrument with Pro, with the Bloodhound, and they trade longer timeframes and different asset classes, stocks, namely, with the other products, with the standalone products. So there's lots of opportunities. I'm here to help, and you're welcome to book a free onboarding session. By the way, let me mention that next Monday, we are planning an onboarding session. So if you want to find out more about that product, I'm going to send out some emails to the audience on the weekend. So we're going to have onboarding session about these products, and please bring your questions. I understand that this is just 10% of what could be said and has been said about these 3 products. And there's many, many other important and interesting, fascinating characteristics that these systems have. Just as a last thought, you can see that while we were talking and looking at the slides, the BT was doing a couple of, actually not that bad on RTY. But of course, the purpose of this is not to brag about what kind of trades we did, because I was not here and I was not part of the equation. One last thing about BT, and then we'll turn into your questions, the Q&A and the special offers, is to say that with BT, let me use this white area just to kind of demonstrate an idea here that I'd like to share with you. With ProSTR, just focusing on the standalones, I'm just going to do this. ProSTR, as we know by now, drives a ATM strategy. Now, as we know with the ATM strategy, and we can look at the workspace with the ATM strategy, and one thing we love about the ATM strategy is that we can manually drag and drop and manage manually our trades. I'm sure you all know that. I don't have to demonstrate it, but you know what I mean. If we just activate the strategy on the chart, and let's say a market might be closed by now, but let's see what happens. I'm just gonna, let's say, just go long here. You see, with ProSTR, I'm able to modify my stops and targets. Now with BT, I cannot do that. And I'm not supposed to do that. That's exactly what the advantage, if you want to look at it that way, of BT is. So ProSTR allows you to manually, basically to inject yourself into the algorithmic equation, into the mathematical calculation in the middle of a trade. But it has certain drawbacks too. I mean, it certainly assumes that you are in control of your own emotions and your own performance. Now, as many of us, and I know this from experience, that's often is not the case. And that's why we build BT, because if you put on BT, you will notice that it runs based on the settings that you defined at the time the strategy was put on the chart. And later, those settings cannot be modified, and targets and stops cannot be dragged with the mouse. So by that, you're removing yourself from the equation. So these are some of the major differences between these products, and none is better actually than the other. They emphasize different various aspects of the trading process. And we also have several bundle deals for people who want to have both. I'm using both actually, or three in my daily practice. And as you go on checking these products out, I'm sure that you will find the exact role you want to assign to a certain software product in your trading business. Or if you're not sure, then I'll be happy to guide you a little bit, or just to share my experiences with you. All right, so I'd better stop here. Time flies, and I'd like to thank you for your attention. Also, some questions are coming in, so let me take a moment to read them. Give me a second. Thank you very much for the comments in the chat, and let me say that if I plan to share performance stats, our performance stats are shared within the premium service. Now, one note on these performance stats, you see, think of yourself, or think of this situation. I've said this many times, there's nothing new. So here's the piano, and it's the same piano, and different people play that piano. The results will be different. It's as simple as that. So what my performance results will be is, or think of it as a race car. You and I, we drive the same race car. Well, I'm not so sure, you know, that so our own performance will be part of the results. So having said that, the premium results are available. If you join premium, you will have access to that page. The best way to test if this system is for you is to start using it. And because you will be part of this system one way or the other. Even if you use BT, you will be part of the system, because you will decide when to put it on the chart. You will decide what instruments to trade. You will decide what days to trade or what time of the day to trade. There's a lot of unknowns here, or variables actually, that you insert into the system. Richard is asking the $1 million question. Can you say you make most of your income from trading and not say something else like software sales? I'm not going to answer that question because in my 12 years of listening to webinars, nobody has answered that question. And I'm not going to ask that question from you either. You have 15 days to try out this product, which costs nothing, and you can decide. Think of it when you go to the car dealer, which car dealer will give you a car for 15 days to drive around, after which you can bring it back and answer if you want it or not. That's what I'm doing for you. You have 15 days, 24 hours a day. Check it out. If you want another 15 days, probably I would say yes. You say, I was busy, sorry, I couldn't check it out. There's another 15 day for you. If you don't like it, it didn't cost you anything. What I do with this software in my private business is not public. It's as simple as that. Thank you. Okay. What version worked best with futures? Tony, I cannot answer that question because I do not know you. I'm not trying to avoid the question. It's a valid question. And it all depends on your own circumstances. And also one more, probably the most, and let's just think back how this little presentation started. We started with the right amount of capital. I do not know and never ask what capital people have, but if I want to drive to the Atlantic coast, I definitely need to make sure that I have enough gas in the tank. Again, it's as simple as that. But I never ask other people how much money they have. So what time frame and what futures? Well, even what futures is impossible to answer, because think of the ES last year, last March. Let's put on a daily chart. Let's hop on the ES, or any of the indexes for that matter. Everybody remembers last, I'm just going to increase the look back period here. Let's say I'm going to give it 1,000 days. That should cover it. So just think back what happened a year ago. On the ES, we had daily ATRs of 150 points. So which means here, the whole more than 1 month, maybe 2 months period. So the money you would have needed here to trade the ES was 10 times more than here or here. So what product, what instrument, what time frame? It all depends on what kind of money you have. Now, Sean is asking a very interesting question. Thank you for the questions. Again, I'm not trying to avoid any of these questions. These are questions that I kept asking for many years myself, and I'm sure there are questions which I never thought of asking, and maybe I should have. So please give me a second to read all the questions. Give me a second, please. Let me just read what Sean said here. My goal is to make $200 per day with 10,000 capital, trading the MES. Can this strategy line up with that goal? Well, instead of me answering that question, I'll tell you how to answer that question for yourself. And the way to answer that question is to, let's just see if I can, here we go. I'll share with you, I promise, the special deals in just 1 second, but let's hop on the Remek website for a second, and let's go to the calculators. And I'll show you the capital requirement calculator. The capital requirement calculator has 2 parts. This is one. The link is in the presentation. What you do here is you enter your own numbers in the yellow fields. It will tell you how much money you need to trade that strategy. The second calculator is the capital accumulation calculator, which after you've calculated the first step, you can make a plan for 6 months and make a plan for each month. And the trick here is to keep your risk the same. It's a balancing act, which this calculator helps you with. All right, let me see if I answer the question. Sean, because you asked, I think the plan is reasonable. I cannot tell you how much money you can make per day. Nobody can answer that question because you are part of the equation. So in other words, I don't know how well you play that piano. The piano itself is good. So if you are good, then it is possible. Shoaib, I'm sorry, the questions are coming in a bit too fast, but let me just see. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. Shoaib, your question, with due respect, I cannot answer. I cannot answer. You have to do this exercise yourself. So Stan says the real question is, can you do that? If I can do that, yes, I can do that. I've answered my question, yes. Thank you. And let me see the other ones. I'm sorry if your question just strolled by without me answering it. Could you please copy it again? Because I'll be happy to address any questions and all questions that are on the list. I'm just kind of looking at the last 5 because they're coming in so fast. So please copy them again if I missed it by accident, and I apologize for that. So Dito is asking, I don't understand the backtesting process. We didn't discuss the backtesting process. We didn't even, I just mentioned backtesting. We didn't go into what backtesting is all about. That's a whole separate webinar, I guess. The backtesting that I have done for my business, my backtesting process, I'm happy to share that with you. My backtesting process is ongoing. I have a weekly routine, which I do on the weekend, Saturday afternoon, and I go back and I see, basically, I do my best to verify my edge. There are weeks when there's not much change in volatility, then I may switch to a bi-weekly review, but my verification process is part of my own business. And it should be part of everybody's business, everybody's trading business. There's nothing here that I discovered or that only I do. This is all well documented in the literature, so I'm not saying anything new. I usually do not invest in any system, Sean says, that I cannot backtest using market data replay in Ninja. This is your own decision, Sean. All I can say is that all of our products are backtestable using market data replay. So all three products that I mentioned today are easily backtestable in market replay. And you are right, that's one step of the backtesting process that everybody should do. So you should not, nobody should skip running the backtest in actual market replay. So since there's a lot of questions on backtesting, may I spend a minute on just backtesting the way I see it? I don't want to take advantage of your attention or time, but let me I wasn't planning this, so if I miss something, then please forgive me, but let me say a few words about what a backtesting process should look like. So there's various stages, and unfortunately, many traders just do one. I think backtesting, when done well, has about 6 steps, and it's very easy to forget 1 or 2 and to skip 1 or 2 thinking it's not important. But actually, so let's have a look. The first one and the easiest one, and is really just the first step, remember, is to right-click on the chart, which you can do with the BT product. This is BT. Right-click on the chart and just run a backtest. Is it working? Where is it? I think, give me a second. It should be here somewhere, but is it covered? I think it's covered behind another screen. I can't find it, sorry. I did click on the chart. Where is it? Let me try again. Okay, so let me try again. So here we go. And NinjaTrader will do its best. I'm serious, guys. I'm not trying to hide anything here. Where is that screen? Give me a sec. How do I maximize this? Maximize. Okay, here we go. Sorry, I did it. Okay, here we go. So here are the results. This is something that Ninja does. But this is just the first step. There could be $1 million here. It doesn't mean anything. I'm serious. This doesn't mean anything because there are 5 more steps in the process. But this is the first step, definitely. Now, there are certain inherent, you can call them shortcomings or just characteristics of a test like this that the software does excellently, but it's not real life. We have to understand that this, what we see here, never happened. I never climbed the Mount Everest. It never happened. So this is a pseudo result. But nonetheless, it should give us an idea of whether it's worth, if the idea is worth pursuing at least. So that's the first step. Second step, you can think of your own process. I mean, this is not written in stone, but another step can be, yes, market replay, of course. Oh, I'm going to be done in 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to answer a couple of questions, Jeff, but this will be recorded and you're welcome to refer back to it later. I promise I'll stop in a second. All right. So second step can be market replay. And a lot of people think that that's where it stops. No, it doesn't stop there because then I have to forward test it, of course, in simulation. But remember, even forward testing in simulation is not real life because the contract or the trade was actually never participated in the market. So believe it or not, the last step of testing is testing with real money, but of course with small size. And this is something that many traders, especially retail traders, never do because they think it's not important or because of lack of resources. But in fact, it's a crucial step in any back testing because this is the only step where my contract actually enters the market. Everything else is pseudo because I wasn't really there. I wasn't there in the tiger's cage. This is the only time I actually entered the cage. So bottom line, backtesting is a multi-step process, quite elaborative. And when you start playing with certain settings, it's very easy to fall into the trap of overfitting or over-optimizing. So there's a lot of things that we have to be careful of, and it requires a certain statistical tilt here, or a little approach. Okay, let me have a look at the other questions because I'm very happy about the interest, but I also don't want to take advantage of your time because now we're going on 20 minutes over what we originally planned for. But let me see what questions are there. I'm just trying to look at the shorter comments here that actually include a question. When you show us the probability win of 55% as per your screen, that's based on backtesting or not? What kind of 55%? Oh, Dito, please. This is just an example. This is just a website. This means nothing. The yellow field is for you to fill in. The yellow field is where you enter your own data. This is just a website. These are not my results. This is just, the whole thing is just an example. Let me show you how it works. You enter your own data. How do you get your own data? Well, you start using the system. During the 2-week trial, you start putting on trades. And what you do is that you record your results. NinjaTrader can give you excellent statistics. You can export it into Excel. And then based on those, you will enter the, let's say, your own results, whatever those results are. And you will see that it is a very smart Excel chart, and it just basically does what it does. And whatever you enter in the yellow fields, whatever it is, Excel will calculate it for you. So your data you enter in the yellow fields, everything else which is not yellow, you never enter anything because that's where the results are. If these are red, that means that your risk is too big. Your risk should be normally, I think it's a good practice to keep it under 3%, which means you should not risk more than 3% of your account size at any one time on the market, whether it's 1 trade or 10 trades. So again, I thank you so much for your attention. I hope wherever you are in the world, you're keeping safe and healthy. And I really appreciate your attention today. And also thank you again to Anita and NinjaTrader for the invitation, and join our mailing list so you will be in the loop of what is coming up next week. Thank you so much and take care. Thank you, Juanita. Back to you.
I would like to give a special thank you to Frank of Remek Trading Systems for a great presentation today. NinjaTrader Ecosystem is pleased to sponsor these weekly vendor events as a value-added service for our clients. If you find value in these events, we hope that you will attend them on a regular basis. We'd like to remind you the information provided in this was that of Remek Trading Systems and not of NinjaTrader. All information was for educational purposes and should not be construed as trading advice. Again, we appreciate the time you spend with us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope to see you in future webinars. Have a great day and happy trading from everyone here at the NinjaTrader Ecosystem. Thank you.